Once again, we'd like to thank the Sons of the American Legion Detachment of Maine for doing us the honor of being part of our opening ceremonies here this evening. Gentlemen, please be seated. My name is Paul Jacques. I'm the director of the program. And once again, welcome to the opening ceremonies. Would our honor guard please escort our three distinguished guests to the rostrum, please. Thank you. Please be seated. Our thanks to the Boys State Honor Guard. Our first guest this evening, here to welcome you on behalf of Thomas College. Our host for this week is the Provost from Thomas College, Dr. Tom Edwards.
Good evening. My name is Tom Edwards. I'm the provost here at Thomas College, and on behalf of the faculty and the staff and the students, I'm very pleased to welcome Boys State to the campus. As an educational institution, we're especially pleased to welcome one of the premier organizations dedicated to educating our future leaders about the role of government in our daily lives. The mission of Thomas College is to prepare students for success in their personal and professional lives and for leadership and service in their communities. By being selected to participate in this prestigious event, you have all demonstrated that you share that same goal. You too are seeking opportunities to lead and to serve, and you recognize that there is power in learning all you can so that when your time comes and you are called upon to lead, that you will be prepared to do so. Our state and our nation are challenged in these times. There are political, economic, and environmental problems that will require the best minds and the most creative solutions we can design. Technology can help, but it requires an intelligence and an understanding that is crafted by people like yourselves who have availed themselves of the opportunities such as Boys State to learn all that they can about crafting solutions that are practical and which carry with them the compassion and the care that have always distinguished our government at its best. You are the individuals who will craft the solutions for the people of Maine, for the United States, and beyond. Think of world leaders such as George Mitchell, who helped craft the peace in Northern Ireland, who made his start here in Waterville, Maine. The motto of the state of Maine is Dirigo, Latin for I lead. During your time here at Thomas College, I would encourage you to listen carefully, to learn much, to devote yourself to all that is being offered on your behalf. Then, when you return home to your schools and ultimately the college and the career of your choice, be alert to all of those opportunities to lead and be ready and willing to accept the responsibility to do so wisely, intelligently, and with great enthusiasm. I wish you an excellent experience here at Boys State and at Thomas College. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. Our next guest is really the representative of the American Legion this evening. The American Legion is a sponsor of the Dirigo program. It's one of their major programs. Many of the Legionnaires are here out back tonight. This gentleman has been newly and duly elected as a new state commander of the American Legion, Mr. Ken Bouchard.
Good evening. Now, I know you've heard this before, but welcome to Boys State. I know you heard it because I was at the front door with a few other Legionnaires this afternoon when most of you came in. This is an opportunity that 23,000 Legionnaires is trying to give you to come and learn how to run a meeting, how to react socially in a tough environment at times if you don't know the rules when you go into a meeting or a town meeting, even going to the State House, what proper protocols are. Challenge this staff to teach you. Do not walk away with questions left unanswered. You've got a very capable staff here. I've worked with them for a couple of years. Do not walk away with a question. If you have to, go all the way up to the top director, and he'll find you an answer. You have very good people that will challenge you in one thing. Make sure that you push yourself to levels that you don't think you can reach, because they're easy. I thought I'd never stand up here and have a chance to talk to young men like this. I was a mechanic in my lifetime. I was in the Air Force. Now I've been state commander of one organization, now I'm state commander of another one. And I had to learn politics to be able to work my way up. And it's a little harder when you get older. Learn it now, they'll stay with you with the rest of your lives. But you will walk away with one thing without even trying. You've got friendships walking out of here that you will last you a lifetime. Young men from other schools that you probably played ball against or competed against in different sports will become your friends. And they will be friends for a lifetime. I will be back on Thursday night to talk to you again. And I'd like to see the cohesion that's going to happen between these groups. These towns are going to be just like little teams that you support one another and you can go to compete against one another. Use the experience and use it well. As I said, do not walk away with a question unless you can find yourself an answer. And these young staff members in back, all the way to the regular staff, to your directors, challenge them. Have them give you an answer, have them find you an answer, because they're there. And if they can't find you an answer, I don't know where else we'll go, because Mr. Jacques is about the most qualified person I've ever seen, and he's been in the State House. So yes, we have answers here. The books have them, but don't walk away with an answer because you think it's a stupid question. There's no such thing as a stupid question. You know, the stupid thing is if you don't ask the question. So challenge these people, pick their brains, and have fun. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Our next speaker has been coming to Boys State, I think, as long as he's been a member of Congress. In 1980, I was in my second term in the legislature, and this young, newly elected representative from East Millinocket showed up. We had a lot in common. I was from Waterville, a mill town, Franco. Never thought I'd ever be running for the legislature, much less get elected. But I ran for the legislature for a couple of reasons, and I found out that Congressman Michaud did the same thing. We wanted to finish cleaning up the rivers that we had grown up on. Myself, the Kennebec, Congressman the Penobscot. We made a friendship very early. We served on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee together. Mike moved on to the state Senate, eventually became Senate President, went to Congress. Don't want to steal any of his thunder, but a longtime supporter and friend of the Boys State program, the Congressman from the 2nd District of the state of Maine, the Honorable Michael Michaud.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paul, for that very kind and very generous introduction. It's a great pleasure to be back here once again to address the opening of Boys State. But before I begin, how many here like to hunt and fish? You got quite a few. Well, as Mr. Jacques mentioned, when I first started in Maine legislature, it was back in 1980, and I was fortunate enough to get on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, where I served with Mr. Jacques for a number of years. And I see there's a large amount of you who like to hunt and fish. Well, Paul is definitely a very avid avid outdoor sportsman, and he was a former Department of Inland Fish and Wildlife Deputy Commissioner. So he knows where all the hunting and fishing spots are. So if you have a chance, ask him where they're at. But you ought to double check with someone else, see if he tells the same person the same place. He might be keeping his very special fishing place to himself, which I'm sure he will be. But please ask him. And I just want to follow up on what the commander had mentioned before I get into my remarks. It is very important that if you do have any questions or concerns, that you do ask the staff here or the deputy director or the director, because they will, if they don't know the answer, they will be able to get the answer for you. So don't be bashful, and please don't hesitate to ask them any questions that you might have on your mind. Whether it's about Boys State or whether it is about hunting and fishing, Mr. Jacques definitely does know a lot about the state of Maine as well. So, but I do want to thank you for having me here. I also would like to thank the American Legion and all of the veterans who are here with us this evening for your service to this great nation of ours. It's not because of elected officials that the United States of America is what it is today. It's primarily because our soldiers who fought for this country that made this country what it is today. So I want to thank all the veterans here for all your service to this great nation of ours as well. I also would like to recognize the volunteers for this program. As a member of Congress, I can't do what I do without the staff. And I know Dirigo Boys State cannot do what it does without the volunteers and the staff to make this program work. They have done a tremendous job over a number of years and continue to do a very good job with Boys State. But I would like to, I hesitate to highlight anyone or pick anyone out, but I would like one volunteer, Leroy Keller, who is celebrating his 50th year of service. And I want to thank him for his service. Would you please stand up, Leroy? And as a lot of you already know, Boys State is among the most respected and selective educational program of government instruction for high school students. You are here to learn about how government at all levels work, but also hopefully to become more active in your communities as well. If you look at this past primary election, unfortunately, it was an extreme low voter turnout, I believe only around 15%. People were not motivated to get out there and participate in electing officials to serve them at different levels of government. So it's important that you learn about the process and to be more active in your own communities. For those of you who want to enter public service, I say welcome. We need a lot of younger people getting involved in politics at all different levels. And I would encourage each and every one of you who might be thinking about it to please do it. If you have any inclination, go out there and do it. Our nation, we can't solve all the problems ourselves. We need new, younger blood in there to look at different ways of looking at different problems and how can we solve those particular problems. So I'm glad to see there's such a good crowd here this evening. Hopefully I'll be seeing some of you on your names on the ballot in future dates as well. And when I look back, when I was your age, I attended Boys State myself. If someone would ever told me that I would be a member of the Maine legislature, let alone a member of Congress, I would have told them that they were crazy, because that's never what I ever intended to do. Actually, when I graduated from Skank High School in East Millinocket, my plan was to go on and become a state trooper. But I went to work in the mill and made good money in the mill, so that's where I decided to stay, working at Great Northern Paper Company. Came from a large Franco family, 6 kids. I was number 2 in the lineup, and I realized how important, and I never forgot the importance of community. and how hardworking Mainers have to work each and every day just to make ends meet. We had a comfortable living growing up in East Millinocket in the Medway area, but it wasn't easy. It probably was a little bit easier in retrospect, thinking about it now, back then when I graduated from high school, because like most people who worked or graduated from high school in the Katahdin region and other regions around the state that had mills in their communities, most younger folks went to work in the mill at the anchor of their community. And it was no different for me. I went to work at Great Northern Paper Company after I graduated, like my father did, who worked there for 43 years, my grandfather before him, who worked there for 40 years. And I really loved working in the mill. I had no problems with it at all. And as Mr. Jacques had mentioned, one of the things that got me motivated to run for the Maine legislature is where I grew up in the town of Medway on the Penobscot River. There's a little cove there that was so polluted you practically could walk across it. And it was from the very mill that I was working at that was causing the pollution. So I could have sat home and just complained about it, but I didn't. I decided that I would run for the Maine legislature to try to do something about it. So I also realized that you could have a clean environment and jobs at the same time. One was not exclusive of the other. You could have both. And so I decided to run for the legislature. A lot of people told me that there's no way I'd be able to win because I was only 25 years old at the time, never ran for public office at all. This was my first entry into running for public office. But I ran and I did win. And I was able, very luckily, be able to get on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. I served on that committee with Mr. Jacques, and we actually passed the first major river reclassification since Ed Muskie was governor back in 1954. And it was because working with individuals such as Paul Jacques that we were able to get things done and moving the economy forward as well. I spent 22 years in the Maine legislature. During my last year as in the Senate, I decided to run for Congress. But before I got into the Senate, likewise, I had a run against a millionaire Republican incumbent in a Republican district. That was Holton on down to the Millinocket area. And I realized it was going to be an uphill battle. And a lot of people said, you're not going to be able to win because she was entrenched. She has the money. It's a Republican district. But I did win. And the reason why I won is because I took the time to go door to door to talk to people, not just Democrats or independents. I talked to everyone, Democrats, independents, Republicans. I heard what they had to say, what they wanted the Maine State Senate to do. Like each and every one of you here today, you're going to, throughout this week, get a chance to talk to students from all over the state of Maine as you move forward in trying to get your issues enacted, when you elect other offices here at Boys State. You're going to have to work with a lot of individuals. And it's not going to be easy. I think all too often, if you look at what's happening in Congress today, you hear the old saying, it's a dysfunctional Congress. And by and large, it pretty much is. On the House side, whether you agree or disagree, the bills that we can pass on the House, at least we're able to get things done. But on the Senate, because of the filibuster rule and because of the hold rule over on the Senate side, any one senator can hold up a bill for any reason that he or she wants without saying why they want it held up. And one of the interesting things is actually one of the bills that's being held up over there is my bill that deals with veterans. We worked very hard on the House side to address the big issue here in Maine and all across the country for state veterans nursing home reimbursement rates. It's at a level that Maine State Veterans Nursing Home is going to be losing anywhere between $8 and $16 million a year for veterans that are 70% disabled or higher. And it's, you know, they're not going to do it much longer. We passed a bill on the House unanimously. And anytime we get anything done unanimously on the House side, particularly with the makeup of the House of the real conservative members of the Republican Party, the Tea Partiers, it's great that we can do that. Unfortunately, one senator over on the Senate side holding the bill up because he wants to fund his bill that costs $300 million, and he wants to use my bill to do it. So that's part of the problem we're facing in Washington. The only reason I'm bringing that up to you here at Boys State, since you're going to be learning about government at different levels, and it's never been done before, is actually 5 of us on the House side were plaintiffs in a lawsuit challenging the United States Senate on the filibuster rule, saying it's unconstitutional, and the Federal District Court in Washington, D.C. is going to have to address that issue sometime soon. There's actually some veterans organization that actually might be joining us in that lawsuit against the United States Senate to try to move things along over on the Senate side, because they haven't been able to do it on their own. So hopefully we'll be able to address that issue. But since I got elected to the state Senate, I was able to become president of the Senate unanimously. We had an evenly divided Senate, 17 Republicans, 17 Democrats, and 1 independent. A lot of people thought that that was going to be a nightmare, depending on who was sick on any given day. But it worked out extremely well. And the reason why it worked out well is because my Republican counterpart and I, we started off the session like we did every other session. You know, Republicans would caucus, Democratic caucus, we'd go over the calendar, then we'd go into session. But the caucuses never ended on time, so it really delayed the process. One of the things I suggested is to have a joint chairs meeting and go over the calendar that way, because half the chairs were Republicans, half the chairs were Democrats, so we tried that out, and it worked out extremely well. Matter of fact, we're able to end most days before noon in the state Senate. But the second thing that it did, and it's something that I think you can learn here at Boys State as well, is the fact that every day we had every senator in the same room going over the calendar in an informal way. It built up trust, an open line of communication. And that's extremely important. It wasn't about how we can make the Republicans look bad or how they can make the Democrats look bad. It's how can we solve the problems for the people of the state of Maine. And communication is extremely important. Whether you might disagree with someone on a certain issue, they might be with you on the next issue. And unless you communicate, you'll never know whether or not you might have the same ideas of how to solve a particular problem. So that is going to be extremely important, not only here at Boys State, but as you move forward in your own personal lives and any other job opportunities that you might have, is being willing to sit down, open line of communication with someone, even though you might think they might be totally opposed to what your idea is. After I left the state Senate 10 years ago, I was asked if I was going to run for Congress. Back then, it was my intention to go back to the mill, drove a fork truck at Great Northern Paper Company. I was going to go back in the mill. I had never had any intention. I kept getting asked if I was going to run. And I kept saying, well, I'll think about it. Then what I realized is the fact that I was just making excuses for myself, because a lot of people were also telling me that if I ran for Congress, there's no way I'd be able to win, because I wasn't a millionaire, I wasn't an attorney, I came from the wrong part of the state, I only had a high school education, and there's no way that a mill worker was ever going to get elected to Congress. But I decided to run anyway, because I realized I was just making excuses for myself. And the reason why I want to tell you that story is because regardless of how much money you have or that you don't have, what status in life you are, where you live, It's you and you alone have the power to turn your dreams into reality, if you want them. A lot of people throughout your life might doubt that you can do something. And through your journey, you might have a tough time. During my campaign as member for the United States Congress, it wasn't an easy campaign, it was a tough campaign. We had a few bumps in the road, but I picked myself back up and kept on going. Because during those down times, what I always did was I made sure that probably the next day I spent time shaking hands at a mill gate to see a lot of the hardworking people here in the state of Maine and what they have to go through. And that gave me the energy and drive that I needed to continue going to fight to become a member of the United States Congress. So if you believe in yourself, and if you really want to go after something, go after it. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't do it for whatever reason. If a mill worker can become a member of the United States Congress, there's no reason why any one of you in this room cannot do whatever you want to do, whether it's a member of Congress, whether it's a member of the United States Senate, whether it's a CEO of a company. If you want it bad enough, you can get it. You just have to want it bad enough and go after it. So once again, I want to thank you very much for having me here this evening. You're going to be, I think, very lucky at the end of the week after you had the chance to talk to some of the other students here and the staff here. And I want to wish you the very best of luck during this week. Look forward to working with you and probably seeing you throughout the state of Maine as I get around the district as well. So once again, thank you very much for participating in this program. God bless.